Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Yale number 300 series small lock case mortise auxiliary style deadbolts. The 300 series was available in 5 different variations, and this deadbolt, this mortise style deadbolt, or an auxiliary deadbolt that is a mortise type, was discontinued. I don't know exactly when it was discontinued. My guess, somewhere approximately 2005 would be my guess. It could be 2010. I don't know, but somewhere in that general timeline is when it was discontinued. Very occasionally, clients call and ask for them, and the client who's asking for them is all the way from the one-man lock shop who has a retail client that has stumbled across this deadbolt, all the way up to substantially, epically large sections of the United States government. I find that it's generally the latter that are looking for this material. The installations done for these lock sets are sometimes done in doors that really can't be replaced. Think applications that involve irreplaceable type doors, whether it be something historic or decorative that the lock was installed into, or it might be a detention application where the holes for the cylinders and the location of that and the thumb turn cannot be changed in these doors whatsoever because of the fact that they're a door built out of steel that's likely a quarter-inch thick. Applications like that. So this video is to really just archive an overview of the 300 series, and because I have some here, I want to archive, via this video what they look like and what their dimensional properties are. So occasionally I have some of these in stock. There's going to be a time when it's nothing other than a memory of this lock. There are links below this video to some documents, installation instructions, product catalog, etc., making available to you in a written format everything published on the lock that I'm able to come up with. There were 5 functions of this lock. All of the functions utilized, of course, the same lock case, the same small mortise format lock case. Okay. I have tried also to have a custom lock manufacturer duplicate these, but the cost was completely prohibitive to get the distance of the center line of the cylinder as it relates to the rest of the lock body and its thumb turn to be duplicated. Let's take some dimensional properties of this item. Overall height of the face of the lock, about 4 5/8. Overall width, about 1 1/8. Obviously a faceplate's going to fit over this. I have a faceplate here in an old Yale box. I believe I do. Might be shown in a satin chrome finish. Okay. Blue peel away protective film that's on there, that's all it is. So the important part of this is obviously you're going to have a standard back set of the hole. Okay, you're going to have a typical 2 3/4 back set. But the problem, that's when the problems begin when you're trying to match something. From what I understand, the Yale 350 is the replacement for this, and what you're going to determine immediately is that the center line of the latch bolt is no longer the same as the 300 series. They've repositioned it closer to the bottom of the lock body. Top of the bolt is about 1 11/16. Overall height of the bolt is about 1 1/4, so 5/8. Top of the lock body to the center line of the bolt should be 2 5/16. And that does certainly appear to be about accurate. Okay. Width of the bolt itself, just shy of ½ inch. Or the thickness of the bolt. Okay. Projection of the bolt when it's thrown, 1 inch. That's going to be typical. So there is a link below this video to the template. And the template's going to show you where to locate the hole for the cylinder. And again, that's when the trouble really starts, is finding a lock that's going to give you all of those same dimensional properties. And what I've done is I've pulled up a copy of the 350 template along with the 300 series template. Now, when I say 300 series, I mean the 313 ST, the 314 variants, the 315. Single cylinder, double cylinder, etc. 300 series. The problem is on the 300 series, there's 1.5 inches between the center line of the cylinder and the center line of the thumb turn, whereas with the 350 series, bear with me, I have to calculate it. They've written it in 64ths of an inch. It's 1.406 inch. So the problem is you're, basically 9/10 of an inch off. That's not a lot. It's the thickness of a residential hinge. The problem is, if you've got a door made of 1/4 inch steel or thicker, there's no way to work that. There's no way around it. 1.5 inches versus 1.406. Yeah, it's 0.09375, so it's, 3/32 of an inch. If you were doing a project and it was a wood door or a steel door, and you could possibly use a large cylinder collar, if you were dealing with, that sort of function, yeah, I think you could probably make that work. Enlarge that hole, come with a new cylinder collar. Now, the problem is, do you have to relocate the hole for the thumb turn? Let's take a look at that. From the center line of the lock body down to the thumb turn on the 300 series, it's 13/16. That's actually going to be incredibly close. So it's 13/16. It's 0.1825. And on the 350 series, it's 0.89 inch. So that's going to be even less. It's going to be 75/1000 of an inch. Looking at the thumb turn that I have here, you're going to try to enlarge that entire hole by, 80/1000 of an inch. I'm thinking you might be pretty successful with that. It's hard when people call and say, I've got this lock and I can't get it anywhere at all, ever. Yeah, that's tough. That's difficult, because items do get discontinued. But having gone over the 350 template for you, and my opinion on the possibility of making it work, you might want to review it for yourself and see if it is something that you can try to make work. You're certainly going to need to replace the strike plate as well. Those applications, the detention applications, they have preparations in steel channel. There is no strike. And then prepping or changing the preparation, elongating that preparation in the jam is not permissible. So that is a reason why that doesn't work. But if you're replacing the strike plate in the frame, you don't have a problem with the standby. One moment. The center line of the strike and the center line of the lock front are not on the same center line. So you will certainly need to, if you're going to try to make a 350 fit, you are going to need to elongate that strike preparation. Maybe as you're going to need to get that down, well down to where that hole is going to be. And it could be a scenario that you don't have enough room to make that fit. They've got a 15/32 of an inch center line relocation, so it's basically ½ inch. Let's take a closer look at that. So the bottom line is, when we take that standard strike from the 300 series and realize that the inside preparation is inch and 3/4 tall, and the height of our bolt 1 1/4 inch, so you'll have a 1/4 inch on either side. I don't know the height of the lock body, at least I don't think I do, of the bolt of the 350 replacement. Now, they don't provide that. But assuming it's not larger, and I think that would be a safe assumption, with a 15/32 relocation, if I had a 1/4 inch margin here, and then if I was going to try to take out as much as possible, if I took out another 1/4 inch and came right down to the head of the screw, it's obviously not the correct way to go, but if you were in a push comes to shove scenario, you might be able to force a 350 to work in a modified series of preparations. I've never personally done it. Looking at the paperwork, I think it's feasible. You're going to have to really consider whether or not that's the kind of look your client's going to want. They may not care. It may not matter. I just need a lock to go back into that door, and you might be able to make that work. Now, talking about the talking about the 300 series, let's get to some catalog information about it. And there is an archival catalog there. It's just a very old version of a wholesaler's catalog, just because the data exists. I like to hang on to that so we have access to it. This lock, the 300 series, was available in 5 functions. Again, they're all going to sit on the same platform of the lock case. You would have had a 313 ST. That's just simply a classroom function deadbolt. Think of a Park District bathroom where you are able to, it would be a multi-user bathroom, where you've got a cylinder on the outside and there's a thumb turn on the inside, except that thumb turn will only retract the bolt. Okay, so you can't go in there and lock the door, is the bottom line. That's a classroom style. Then you've got an exit only, a 314, that would be a keyed cylinder on one side only with nothing on the other side. You would have a 314-1/4, that's simply a double cylinder version. Then you have a hybrid of the 313 and the 313 ST and the 314/4. That's the 314-1/4 ST, double cylinder, and then that classroom thumb turn on the bottom. I would imagine the functionality of that is you're going to, janitorial staff is going to go in the bathroom, physically lock the door so that you can clean, and then, of course, retract and exit. Would be my guess where you're going to see that. Then there's the typical 315. That's just your standard single cylinder. Thumb turn on the inside, that operates normally. Keyed cylinder on the outside. In the catalog, that's down below here as well, they show the 2 different thumb turns. Basically, one, the one is modified. The classroom function is modified to only retract. The strike plate and the armor front are listed. A dust box is also listed. I don't have a dust box here in my parts box of the old 300 series. However, I do have their rabbited door end kit. So in a scenario, and that is referred to on the initial page, you're going to be able to put a rabbited, you'll be able to install this into a rabbited edge, is what I'm driving at. You know, you're going to have an application that's going to look like this, where part of your door is literally rabbited. Then, of course, you're going to have the strike. So that when it all goes together, it's going to look like that, okay? With the bolt retracted. I'm doing a poor job at demonstrating this. But these two pieces are going to mate together and give you the ability to have a rabbited door edge. Okay, rabbited edges are really nice. Whether it be a single door or certainly a pair of doors, when you have a rabbited edge, and forgive me if you already know this, you know, it can look something like that. You know, a single door application. Rabbited edges are nice because they do prevent a line of sight. They are very good in terms of just sealing the door. There is weather stripping available for rabbited style door edges that interlock that are very effective, etc. So I happen to have a couple of sets of the rabbited door edge kits available for them. Don't expect these will sell anytime soon. You really don't bump into rabbited door edges often. This is going to take a cylinder that has this funny 1160 cam. This 1160 cam is specifically intended for this lock. I have also taken standard cams. Pardon me. I have also taken a Yale cam and modified it, simply modified it on the bench grinder to work. You do have to try to emulate the look of the 1160 as best as you can. Got to be real careful when you're threading that. You don't want to cross-thread it. You'll be in big trouble. That 1160 cam is going to work really well, because that little ball end that's on there permits it to enter the yoke that's inside of here. Pull that cylinder out, get a little bit more light. So what I'm driving at is this client had a need for small format interchangeable core. Well, I was able to just take a core and modify the tailpiece, because you know, the arrow core that we were the arrow housing we were installing into it, there's no 1160 cam available for an arrow. But there was a standard cam, and with enough modification, we were able to get it to work perfectly. So there's a yoke that's in there, or maybe a bird's mouth, and that cam needs to enter in there and throw that. And the reason the 1160 is curved up on the top, so that it gives a smooth sort of movement over that curved surface area. The specifications of the lock, it will work. It would have worked. It does work if you have any on 1 3/8 or 1 3/4 thick doors. 3-inch maximum for thumb turn lock applications. What they're saying is there is the thumb turn that they would have had available for this. The longest tailpiece they would have provided would have worked only for a 3-inch thick door. It would have been a non-handed lock, most certainly. It's a square edge lock. It does have the ability to have a floating faceplate to set a bevel on it. That screw and that screw, if you loosen that, you'll be able to tip that plate to hit the bevel on your door. 1-inch throw, 1 1/4 by 1/2 inch. 2 hardened steel free-floating pins make sawing through bolt virtually impossible. Resists end pressure when thrown. So from the ladder, you know, because of the construction of this bolt's not going to go back in. 2 free-floating pins, that's going to be a saw attack. You know, the Sawzall is the common tool that people are going to use to try to get on that bolt. And while eventually you're certainly going to get through it, coming up with accommodations to forestall, slow down, impede altogether, attack via Sawzall is what the point is. Every lock will be ultimately attacked, and especially if you know how to bypass the lock. But those pins are there to keep the uninitiated, the uneducated person from, making it easy to get in. The worst thing about trying to get into a lock is not knowing how to bypass it. And generally, sawing the bolt is what people think of first, and it's really what I would do last. Okay, now the rest of the catalog page that there talks about the armor front, which is literally the plate that attaches to the face of the lock. I've seen references to in old hardware catalogs. Mortise locks were made without armor fronts. They were just thickened end plates that everything came out of: the cylinder, the bolt, the stopworks, a latch. But then those same Mortise those same old hardware catalogs had designs of those same locks where they had an armored front. And I would imagine that would be because the material of an armored front was considered more durable than this, giving it maybe better attack resistance. Case, heavy wrought steel, zinc plated and dichromated. It's going to be made of steel. It's a zinc plated for corrosion resistance. The armor front would have been made of brass, bronze, or stainless. I believe this one is stainless. I'm quite convinced that it is. Absolutely not. I suppose it could be. Stainless picks up magnetic properties, but that's awfully magnetic. Picks up magnetic properties when it's been machined or worked. In terms of the keying or cylinders that you could stick into this, as long as you can emulate an 1160 cam one way or another, you'll be able to run really any keyway into this lock body. There were apparently two strikes available, a 30S and a 545. I see. So the 30S would have been the 3.5-inch strike that we showed earlier. If you could get your hands on a 545 strike, that would have been easier to accommodate the relocated center line. The problem is it's going to be the prep and the frame. Okay, and as we move through, rock box, I don't have a dust box here. There would have been a dust box available for that. You might be able to, it's possible that the current 350 rock box, dust box is going to work for that. The rabbited front for the lock face and the strike, we demonstrated that earlier. Apparently they could have done a rounded front as well. I've never seen a rounded front lock, where I guess they would have radiused the corner of this. You have to be pretty intent on installing that in a wood door and then not squaring the corner. Standard package for 1 3/8 and 1 3/4 doors. Included everything that you needed to install it. And then page 2 of the catalog really just goes over the functions. So, this video is really to serve as visual, dimensional evidence of the item. Okay, you're going to have a couple of screws to hold in cylinders, if that's what you're putting into it, that sort of scenario. I feel bad for those people that have these, only because every time I speak to almost everyone, they have no options of replacing the material because they cannot modify the door at all. Not that they can't, but they are not permitted to. And it's unfortunate that they're stuck, is the bottom line. But hardware does become discontinued for a variety of reasons. Codes change. And I'm not saying that that's the case with this lock, but codes change. Listing requirements change. This lock could have worked for years, decades. And then the codes change, and all of a sudden this lock, while it's perfectly sufficient to lock a door, and maybe even exceptional at it, it's not code compliant for whatever it might be. This lock may never have been tested and for a particular application, and they might sunset the product line to make way for a replacement. Who knows? It could be a change in manufacturing process or an availability of vendor material, and the new vendor cannot build these latch bolts, but they can build it, so they relocate the center line. It's all guesswork, really, why things are discontinued, but I bet all of those are fair theories as to why something might become discontinued. If you have any questions on this Yale 300 lock, I'd be happy to try to help. Hopefully your evolving out or up above it is not as painful as other people's. Any questions on this or any other Yale lock, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.